Well done, Rick. Hello, everybody. Good to see all of you today. You know, you are the best-looking group that I have ever spoken to. So, yes, I do say that everywhere I go. But it's a great honor to be here with you today and share this experience to continue with the journey that we're on, this amazing journey in GCI, and to be a part of it. I do feel very honored, and it's wonderful to be here and to meet so many people. I've had a chance for Debbie and I to be here together and see people we've known for decades now and love and share this life with. The Northeast region is the region that I'm honored to work with. It is green, and I hit the arrow. There we go. Northeast region entails New England, the Mid-Atlantic states, New York State, Pennsylvania, and most of West Virginia, and a slice of Ohio. So a lot of states, a little smaller geography, but 48 congregations, 41 pastors, and about 1,000 each week in average attendance. So it's a very contained group up there, kind of up in the northeast corner of the United States. I enjoy it very much. I spent a fair amount of early ministry in upstate New York, and so I get to spend a lot of time still working with people that I've known and loved for a long, long time and making new friends as we go. They asked us to state what we felt was our personal mission for doing what we do as the regional pastors, and I thought, well, I do believe very, very strongly that every single congregation, regardless of size, regardless of how they perceive themselves as far as having resources or not, age, geographic spread, financial resources, I'm a firm believer that every single congregation has a piece of the action with what Jesus is doing around them. Now, the challenge is in recognizing and appreciating the resources and the gifts that they have, and in trying to discern what it is that Jesus might be doing in their particular context, using those gifts, and to be very realistic about what they can do to be a part of what Jesus is doing. And the wonderful thing about it is that they're all involved and engaged in some way. Now, some are engaged in ways that might be considered indirect, but I believe are still very direct, through prayer, through financial support of the GC Next Fund, which enables us to be able to train interns and new pastors and church planters. And if you're not familiar with the GC Next Fund, please talk to your pastor or contact me, and we'll fill you in on that. And a couple of you have done that here while we've been here. A growing number are being more active personally and intentionally in being a part of something in their community. They're getting out, they're discovering what's going on in the community, they're discovering community needs, and they're finding ways to begin to get out beyond the walls of the church and start to engage people, not only in ways of service that provide some kind of a service locally and to help people, but to actually, through those avenues of service, to be able to make personal connections with people in the community, to actually develop new friendships, and to take those new friendships to a point where, in appropriate ways, as the relationship develops and as they sense the Holy Spirit leading, of sharing the good news of the gospel of Jesus and helping people to be able to learn about their identity in Christ and to help them become followers and live their life in Jesus. Now, and they are learning that this is a long, hard process, that it entails doing new and different things that they've never done before. But I tell everybody constantly, look, you are GCI. Think back 20 years, and then don't talk to me about what you haven't done before, and doing new things that you never thought that you would ever do before, because those words really don't mean a lot to me when I think about who we are and who you are and what we've been through and what Jesus has brought us to do that we had never done before and never thought that we would do before. So they're they're lighting up to this. They're discovering this. They're lighting up. They're catching on fire, and they're moving out. And growing numbers are doing more and more and seeing some great fruit in terms of new people being a part of the mission and the work of the church and eventually becoming new members. There are a lot of them I could talk about, but they gave me a certain amount of time, and I'm going to try to honor that by only highlighting a few. Pam had us over in the corner a while ago, and she was talking to us about how we needed to behave up here and stay on time. She said, "Now, boys," and I said, "Well, I don't see refreshments over here." Pam said when it's all over, if we behaved, that she'd all buy us a drink. Okay, now, you guys heard that, right? Okay, but I told Pam she said that with far more confidence than I thought she should have. So let me begin with the Waltham Congregation, which is in the Metro Boston area, and Pastor Dyshawn Mills, who couldn't make it here because he's also a camp director, and camp's going on right now up in Connecticut. Kara Garrity is intern working with Dyshawn. The two of them are there doing some great things in the community. Dyshawn informed me that there was a Lifeway study that was conducted that told that approximately 70% of young adults who regularly attend church drop out during the college years. So they have said, what can we do about this? Now, mind you, this is a congregation, average is about 20, okay? But along with Kara, what they've done is they've started to reach out onto some of the university campuses, such as Tufts and Harvard, Lesley University, and they've started some small groups and Bible studies in these places. And I was there on the Harvard campus with Dyshawn a few months ago, and he walked me around. He is a graduate of Harvard, and so he knows his way around. I had a good tour. He had some good stories to tell. And so what they're doing is they've started some small groups to be able to connect with the young people, and they're connecting the young people with the congregation. They do this in a couple ways. They do it by having college day gatherings where the congregation hosts. They have a special service. They have some special activities for some of the college students that they're connecting with and bringing in. They're developing some good relationships between the members of the church and the college students. They also have what they refer to as Adulting 101 classes. And with these, what they do is a series of workshops. This is something that Kara does directly herself. And they teach practical life skills, such as car maintenance, ironing, sewing, cooking, resume writing, interview skills, and just basic financial management, which if some of you need some help with that, I'm sure they would be glad to help. But they're doing a wonderful job of making some great inroads into the university culture, and I'm sure you can appreciate what the university culture is like in the Northeast. It's like everywhere else, only squared, as far as its outview on Christianity in particular and churches. So they're doing some really great things, and I look forward to hearing more good stuff come as they continue. And I could say that Rick talks about the propositional thinking, the promise, and so forth. They're kind of in the early stages. They're not quite at the planning stage yet, but the dream of planting a new church is there. And that's music to my ears, as many of you would probably appreciate. The next congregation I'd like to focus on, and I love talking about this group. I love bragging on them, and they're sitting right over here. Special friends and brothers and sisters over here from Staten Island, the Hands for Christ Community Church, a church that was planted 5 years ago. I'm so glad you did that. I know everybody's special. I love the people in the region, the pastors, the churches. And I've just got to say, these folks are just really special. I was so honored to be a part of helping them plant the church, helping Mary and her team plant a church on Staten Island. It's hard to believe it's been 5 years ago, but it has been. And so they've been busy at work, and they average somewhere between 35 to 45 in attendance now. It started with Mary 5 years ago. And their specific focus group are the deaf people on Staten Island. This church is such a delight to visit. If you know Mary, you know she's just an absolute delight, and so is her team. They're just one of the most endearing, delightful, and inspiring churches to visit. Their worship service always makes me misty-eyed. Mary and her team are doing what any church would love to be doing. They're doing outreach. Via the outreach, they nurture and care for the members, the new people who come, and they do have new people coming on a regular basis. They train people, equip people for ministry. They get people involved and engaged in ministry. They multiply leaders. Mary has installed maybe 6 or 8 new ministry leaders from the harvest over the last couple years. And they have a vision for planting more churches for deaf people in the metro New York area. And they're intentionally taking steps to do that. That word intentional pops out, I'm sorry. They're deliberately taking steps to prepare for new deaf church plants in the area, working with a couple new leaders. They live stream their worship services each week to 3 or 4 places around the country. So the multiplication is going on, making new disciples is going on. It's just exemplary. I know I and Mary and everybody gives credit to God for all of this, but it's just a marvelous thing to be able to be a part of. These are just some pictures of what they have going on there. If you can see on the left, a picture of their worship service. Just hard to describe. You have to experience. I know they would love to have you come visit. A small group meeting that they have, there's a picture on the right. There's a picture of their deaf choir. And Mary, probably a lot of the deaf choir is here, right? Down front and center every day, so you can come up and worship personally with them if you like. That'll probably empty out the back section tomorrow. The baptism service they had recently, they baptized 7 people. 5 of them were deaf. There's Mary with some of the new members of that congregation. It is, as I say, just such an honor to be a part of what God is doing there and the leadership that Mary and her team are providing. And next, I want to highlight what's happening in Rochester, New York, pastored by Leonard Banks, senior pastor, Abundant Grace Church. This is a church that has been, Leonard's a rock star as far as I'm concerned in pastoral ministry. 10 years ago, maybe 11 now, they realized that they really were overly challenged to be able to be missional in the community where they were. So they prayed about it, did some looking around, and they realized, okay, we've got to move. They replanted their church twice to be able to, before they realized this is where Jesus has us. And they got to work. They started a food pantry. It's been going very well. They're well known in the community. They're doing some great work. They continue to do some great work. I was up there with them with their major outreach event a few weeks ago. And again, they're reaching out in the community. They identify, they make new relationships, develop new friendships. When people come, they put them to work. They help them to learn to serve. They develop new leaders. And they also have a vision for planting a new church in the community. They are doing some wonderful things. And they did what was called an Outside the Walls event. Some of you are hearing about that, but they actually have been doing that for a number of years, and they continue to have a powerful impact upon the community. And finally, in Baltimore, New York, Baltimore, Maryland, there might be a Baltimore, New York, but I'm not aware of it. Timothy Brissell and the congregation there have been able to procure a building next to their church, again, with the hope and the dream of providing and establishing a ministry training center. Very early stages of planning and development and thinking this through and how this may work. But as Rick was saying, it's a process. But it's a place talk about the future and what we see. Well, we see in the future more and more churches reaching out into the community, making new disciples, developing new leaders, interns, pastors, and planting new churches, and developing ministry training centers where they can be trained and deployed. So there's a lot of good stuff going on, much more good to come. I'm so honored, as I said, to be a part of it all. And all of you pastors in the Northeast region, members who are part of all these things, thank you so much. You're in my prayers always. God bless you. And all the rest of you, too. We're all in this together. It's an honor. And who's next? PD? Mike? PD. My time is out. You've got it.